Hey buddies, Misfugger here, coming at you with a Borderlands 3 video. Today we're coming at you with a level 72 Moze build that optimizes in the OPQ system. Last time we did an OPQ system build that focuses on the drones itself, but this time let's focus on the gunplay. So as everyone knows, OPQ system does crazy amounts of damage. If you use the little points with Moze, you can actually use it to shoot almost infinitely without heavily investing in the green tree. But before we get into that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You have no idea how much it helps me out. And let's get into it. First, let's talk about some of the items that allow us to regen our ammo so much. First, we have the Minesweeper. Minesweeper has 1 point in the redistribution, which is very useful because it increases the amount of ammo we get on a critical hit. Investing 1 point into that and then getting 1 point on the class mod allows you to get almost infinite ammo with the OPQ system without heavily investing any magazine size at all. I only have 37 bullets in the magazine with my OPQ system, and I still don't run out of ammo often. Main reason why we're using a Minesweeper is because since we're going to be trying to hit the crits, because we need that redistribution to give our magazine size, of course we are going to use a Minesweeper that drops micro grenades every time we crit. We have Pull the Holy Pin that can proc the micro grenades to also crit, which can proc the Minesweeper again. That can happen almost infinitely, which can lead to almost infinite damage very easily. As long as with that, 3 points into Fire in the Skag Den is very useful. Increases our total damage we deal with the OPQ system since it does splash damage very easily. And then we have 1 point into Torque Cross Promotion just to increase our splash damage even more and the size sometimes, which can get pretty dang huge. So next we have the Super Soldier. The Super Soldier has been nerfed, which means that it cannot no longer infinitely proc itself with the Flak Doctrine, which is a bit unfortunate, but the Super Soldier still does the job very well at regenerating your HP and giving you some bonuses as well. So with this and the Minesweeper point into redistribution, we can get almost infinite ammo with the OPQ system, despite us only having 37 bullets in the magazine, which is absolutely crazy. Now let's go over to our OPQ system itself. OPQ system we have here is Anointment on action skill N. The next 2 magazines will have 100% additional fire damage. The reason why we're going with this as opposed to consecutive hits is because consecutive hits took a pretty big hit in the nerf pool on June 26th with the hotfix, so it no longer is best in slot for some guns or even most guns. You can still use the consecutive hits anointments, but it's still not going to be the most preferable thing to use. So instead, I decided to go with action skill N. Next 2 magazines will increase our fire damage by 2 times because we're not going to run out of ammo, so we're not going to reload often, so we basically have this anointment procced 24/7, so that's very useful. And then, as you guys probably recognize, I have a Z Eruption on this build as well, just to have in case we want to increase the total amount of boss damage we want to deal against the enemies. You just got to animation cancel reload to keep spawning the despawn orbs, which is very useful. But let's not talk too much about that weapon because that's not one of the main sellers on this build. So let's go back to the Minesweeper. Minesweeper secondary stats we have here is weapon critical damage, since we're going to be focusing on hitting critical hits. We have 39% more splash damage, which is a multiplicable multiplier, which is very useful to have on any build, so that just increases our total damage by a crap ton. And then we have 35 just baseline weapon damage, which is useful for any type of build, so that's very useful. If you guys want any of these level 72 items, there will be a save file down below in the description and comments in case you guys want any of these items. And let's move on to the next item. We have a level 72 Perfect Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge. It has the 16% rate fire and a magazine size, which is very useful to have on the OPQ system for our particular build, because it increases tons amount of damage we can deal and increases the fire rate, which is very useful since we want to fire as much as possible to increase our DPS. Now, consecutive hits did get nerfed, but the Pearl Ineffable Knowledge isn't affected by that because the nerf only affects the anointments. So the Pearl is still really good to use on any type of build, so I just have that to increase our total damage. Next we have a It's Piss, kind of a staple on most builds, just increases the total amount of damage we can deal against enemies, which is very useful by 20%. And then we have the Anointment on Grenade Throw, increase damage by 25%, which is very useful, as everyone knows so far. As you guys probably saw at the beginning of the video, this build deals millions upon millions of damage very easily. We're able to kill all the bosses super easily with this build, and it does have a little bit of point investment into Iron Bear, as most builds should have, so you can use Iron Bear to deal damage as well if you want, but you mainly want to enter and exit Iron Bear as soon as possible to proc your action skill ends, which I forgot to say, we have the action skill end Incinerate damage for our shield. Exiting Iron Bear also puts it on cooldown, which we have 3 points into Big Surplus, which has been found to scale with the Mayhem Mayhem level is very, very high, which is kind of crazy. So it's just a free amount of damage every single time you exit Iron Bear. And you do have Auto Bear out there to shoot all the enemies around you in case you need that extra little bit of damage. But you should be fine killing all the enemies by yourself. I don't often use Alt Fire when using OPQ system in this build, but you could still use it if you wanted to proc Means of Destruction a little bit more to increase the total amount of ammo you reload, but it's not necessary. When you shoot people with the OPQ system, you have a chance on proccing like a little shock explosion, which does allow us to proc the Means of Destruction a little bit better than most builds. And combine that with short fuse, you basically get infinite ammo. That's the main reason why we're able to get infinite ammo with this particular build, is because short fuse and OPQ systems explosion both proc Means of Destruction, which is just very, very useful to have because it just constantly procs Means of Destruction, getting your ammo back, and redistribution, as said before, just helps immensely with your ammo. So let's just run by the main strategy with this build. You basically want to enter, exit Iron Bear as soon as possible, maybe shoot a little so you can get your fuel down. Then you'll have Iron Bear as a little companion just to shoot the enemies around you, which is very useful for your total DPS. And then you just want to go ham with your OPQ system. You're going to basically one-shot every single enemy you see, and if it's a badass, you're going to just shoot them at them for like 2 seconds and they're just going to explode and just die really, really quickly. Since you're shooting so fast, you do get your pearl stacks really, really quickly, so that's very, very useful as well. And since you just exited Iron Bear, you get all your action skill ends, and you get Big Surplus and a bunch of other bonuses from the skill tree to increase your total damage. If you find that your damage is faltering a little, that's because you need to enter and exit Iron Bear once again to proc all your anointments and your action skill bonuses as well. I found sometimes that the damage wasn't as high as I remember, and then I was like, alright, I gotta enter exit Iron Bear, so don't forget to do that. On top of that, we do have 2 launchers here. We have the Plague Bearer and the Back Burner, both with the U-Red anointment, so of course these are the weapons you want to use in case you're in fight for your life, and for some reason the OPQ isn't cutting it for you. You can switch to these weapons to instantly annihilate any enemy around you, especially since we have tons of bonuses in the splash damage. These 2 launchers does crazy amounts of damage. So let's move on to the skill tree. We go all the way down on blue to the short fuse because it increases our total damage. Short fuse does increase our damage by a considerable amount if you guys aren't aware. I'm sure you already know, but short fuse's damage does increase based on how many Iron Bear damage multiplier bonuses you have. So it's very, very useful to have this and to optimize in Iron Bear damage, as up here we have 5 points in the Stainless Steel Bear, 20% more damage in the Iron Bear, which in turn increases our short fuse damage. So if you see any of these points that invest in Iron Bear damage, remember that also increases our short fuse damage. So let's move on to our 3 points in the Means of Destruction. You want max points in this to allow you to get your ammo back as much as possible, because you don't have any points in the green tree that would increase your ammo regen besides redistribution, but we'll get more into that later. 5 points in Torgue Cross Promotion because it increases our total splash damage and has a chance to make our splash damage radius 2 times, which is very, very crazy. We have Auto Bear to obviously have Iron Bear out to shoot all the enemies around, staple in any build, and then we have 3 points in the Pull the Holy Pen. Very useful with the Minesweeper because the Pull the Holy Pen can proc with the Minesweeper grenades, and it can infinitely spawn Minesweeper grenades, potentially dealing infinite amount of damage, which is great to have. So make sure you have 3 points in that, and just 3 points in the Grizzled. You could put less, you could put more. I didn't have any reason to put any more points anywhere else, so just 3 points to get to the capstone in Grizzled to increase our chances on spawning Iron Bear in case we need to spam action skill end. And then we move on to the red tree. The main key points here: 5 points in Drenian Brass, which is arguably the best kill skill in the game. It just increases your damage by a crap ton. 2 points in the red line, which we'll get into a little bit later. 1 point in Experimental Munitions, which deals incendiary damage when you deal critical hits, which is very useful since we're aiming for critical hits. 3 points in Desperate Measures because we have 2 points in a thin red line. Thin red line is very, very useful because it does decrease your total HP, which procs our Desperate Measures, so it's just free damage all around. We only put 2 points in the thin red line because if you put 3, you'll be at 40% maximum HP at all times, which doesn't allow you to health gate anymore. So make sure, for survivability reasons, to only ever put 2 points in the thin red line. And then we have 5 points into Flak's Doctrine, which is just crazy amount of damage you can get. You can get an infinite amount of stacks, assuming you can keep killing, which means that you can get infinite amount of gun damage. So it's very useful to have 5 points in that. Then we have the green tree, which just basically gives us 5 points in the Cloud of Lead, increase incendiary damage, redistribution, increase fire rate, and Iron Bear damage. Key point there. And 1 point in the Specialist Bear to increase our Iron Bear damage as well. And and Docker Bear in case you need a utility. So we don't have any points here that initially gives us regen besides redistribution, so you don't have to go heavily invest into the green tree to get infinite ammo with the OPQ system. Like normally you would want to get forge and some for the road, but you don't need to do that at all. You could potentially put 1 point in the rushing offensive to get infinite lifesteal, which is very useful in case you're fighting a raid boss. So if you're planning on fighting a raid boss, I'd put 1 point in there to abuse health gating, and then we move on to the purple tree, which all we need is just 3 points in the big surplus, which just increases our incendiary damage by a crap ton when the Iron Bear cooldown is on, which should be if you're paying attention at all times. That's why it's super important to enter exit Iron Bear as much as possible and shoot your weapons just recklessly, even if there's nobody to aim at, so you can get your cooldown there at all times, because despite it only saying 15% of gun damage, it increases your gun damage by a lot more than just that. So let's do a run by again, go all the way down on blue, all the way down to Dr. Rain on the red tree, all the way to Specialist Bear on green, and just 3 points into purple. If you guys want any other level 72 builds, I have 3 other on the channel. First, I have an Amara build that I just created recently. It does crazy amount of gun damage and action skill damage by using the phase flare and the needle gun to just proc fantastic light very easily, which just scales to 1 billion damage very easily. You can one-shot the Great Ward and you can kill the raid boss in a few seconds with that build. It's absolutely amazing. Next we have another Moze build, but instead of using an orthodox method to kill, we have Iron Bear's Fist. So it's a melee build that uses Iron Bear. It does 1 billion damage very easily. It kills basically any enemy in one shot. It's crazy how much it got buffed, the Iron Fist damage, so check that out up there. Then if you guys want another OPQ system build, but that focuses on the drones itself, try our Flak build. It spawns the drones infinitely with a few perks and the Infernal Wish, so you can spawn 2 drones per shot, so that's very useful. If you guys would like another infinite ammo build with Moze, you try my Green Monster plus Shredderfire. Normally Shredderfire doesn't deal that much damage, but Green Monster and a bunch of other skills, you can deal millions upon millions of damage with the Shredderfire very easily. And next, one of my personal favorite builds is my Peregrine plus Lightspeed build. It uses a Guardian Angel to deal 1 billion damage really easily with just grenades. With Lightspeed and the Peregrine, it spawns the grenade 4 times with 1 proc, which is just crazy, and it kills the raid boss super easily with just grenades. So if you guys want to try that, click up there. Alright, that's all I have for today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.
And the last shall be first to immerse in a pass out heat, facing him out with a moxie melt till he woke up drowning in tchotchke hell. War in a cave with a torch on a wall, then a window arrangement of porcelain dolls.